Welcome to the Auditor Estate Uniform Accounting Network screencast for creating interfund advances in UAN. In this screencast, we will cover how to create, manage, and troubleshoot both interfund advances and repayment of interfund advances. Interfund advances are temporary loans between accounts which are ultimately going to be repaid. Advances must be made from a less restricted fund to a more restricted fund. For example, you could advance a loan from your general fund to your state highway fund, but not from your state highway fund to your general fund. If you're unsure if an advance of cash from a more restricted fund to a less restricted fund is legal, you could research Ohio Revised Code or contact local government services at 800-345-2519. UAN cannot advise on the legality of cash advances. Note that to advance cash from one fund to another, there must be a statutory authority to use the money in the fund advancing the cash for the same purpose for which the fund is receiving the cash. Please be aware of your legal level of control before entering or revising your budget balances. Consult with your governing board if you need to determine your legal level of control. Advances always occur through advance out appropriation accounts and advance in revenue accounts. Any advance cannot reduce a fund to below $0. The Interfund Advances function also addresses repayment of advances by letting you return cash advances to the original fund in largely the same way they were initially advanced. An interfund cash advance does not directly affect the budgetary accounts of either the creditor or debit funds when the advance is made or repaid. It merely is recorded in the cash journal to adjust the fund cash balances and in the ledgers to provide accountability. This changes, however, if the cash is not repaid by the end of the year. If an advance is not repaid before the end of the fiscal year, the altered cash balances must be taken into consideration in the preparation of the appropriation ordinance. For example, the advance may be converted into a transfer. To navigate to the post-interfund advance form, you want to select the Accounting module, Transactions menu option, and Interfund Advance. The post-interfund advance form will display 4 sections and 2 buttons. They are the Advance Type section, the Details section, the From section, the To section, the Post button, and the Close button. As usual, required fields are in green, optional fields are white, and read-only fields are the same color as the background. So when we start to do our advance, the first thing we're going to do is select the type of interfund advance that we want to create. Your options are Initial Advance, Repayment of Advance, and Repayment of Advance not posted in the system. Initial advance is for creating any advance that is not a repayment. For example, you would use an initial advance to move cash from your general fund to your road fund to pay for an emergency road repair. Repayment of advance is for transferring cash back to the creditor account, usually the general fund. For example, you would use repayment of advance to move end-of-year revenue accrued in your road and bridges fund back to the advance from the general fund. Note that if you select repayment of advance, you will need to select which advance you are repaying from the drop-down menu. You may either click on the menu to view your selections or enter part or all of the advance number to receive a list of suggested advances from UAN. We'll show you that when we go and do an example of a repayment. Repayment of advance not posted in the system is for paying cash back that was advanced but not noted in the system because your entity converted from the old UAN software to the new UAN this year. This function should only be used for tracking repayments not registered in the system due to data conversions. Also, if you're not sure about what a repayment of advance not posted in the system is, you can click our blue question mark. You'll receive the system message. It basically explains what I just explained. Once you click your advance type, the next thing we'll do is fill out the details field. So next we'll select the amount of the advance in the amount field. This amount must be a positive number. So I'm going to enter an amount of $1,000. Next, select the post date of the advance from the Post Date Calendar menu. You may select the date either by clicking on the Calendar drop-down menu and scrolling through the dates to choose the appropriate dates for the required field, or you can just type the date into the field. I'll go ahead and just select today. Next, enter the name or number of the resolution approving this advance in the optional approval field. You're limited to 10 characters. Notice that this is an optional field, but remember, the more information you can put in UAN, the better. Next, select the approval date of the advance from the Approval Date Calendar menu. Again, you can just select it from the calendar option, or you can just type it in. Next, we'll enter the reason for the advance or repayment in the reason field. You're limited to 40 characters, so just give a brief explanation of why you're completing the advance. So we're going to say we have a cash shortage in Road and Bridge that we'll pay back to the general fund before the end of the year. It's just a brief explanation. The reason field is required. Now we'll enter the from information. If you're creating a new advance or repaying an advance not posted in the system, you can just select the fund number or the fund supporting the credit or appropriation account from the fund drop-down menu. As you can see, we've got our options here. Or you can just type part or all of the fund number. You receive a list of funds suggested in UAN. So I can start to type in the general fund. As you see, it just pops up. Now we'll select our account number for the fund from the account drop-down menu. It works the same way as the fund drop-down menu. There's going to be one advance out account for each fund. To enter in the to information, if you're creating a new advance or repaying an advance not posted in the system, you'll select the fund number of the fund supporting the debtor revenue account. So we are going to give a loan to Road and Bridge. And there's going to be one revenue account listed here for advances in for the Road and Bridge fund. If you're repaying an advance in the system, the to section will be automatically populated with the appropriation and revenue account information respectively. However, you will still need to select the account from the drop-down menu, and we'll give you an example of that later on. Once you're finished filling out all the required fields and some of the optional fields, we want to review our work. If everything is accurate, we'll click the Post button. If you click the Close button without posting your work, UAN will prompt you with a message asking if you want to post the Interfund advance. Click Yes to post, No to close the form without posting, or Cancel to continue working. Go ahead and click Cancel, and when I post the advance, UAN is going to display a message in the lower left-hand part of the form stating how much money is advanced from the creditor fund number to the debtor fund, and clear the form to allow you to enter more advances. Repeat these steps as needed, beginning from selecting the advance type. Click the Close button after posting your work to close the form. When you click Close, UAN will prompt you with a system message if you want to print the advance report. Click Yes to print the report, or No to avoid printing the report. If you click Yes, UAN will present you with printer options for the report. Select a printer from the drop-down menu and click OK to print the report. You're now finished completing your initial advance. I'm just going to say no, we don't need to print the report for this screencast. Now to repay that advance, again we'll go into the accounting module, transactions menu option, and Interfund advances. We'll select repayment as the advance type, and as soon as you select the radio button for repayment of advance, you'll see this green drop down that's required becomes available to select. If you click the drop down, UAN will keep track of the advances that you've posted in the system, and it already knows that this is the advance that we want to repay. If you had more than one advance, you'd have to make sure you select the correct advance. They'll all be listed from this drop down. It also knows the amount, but if you need to change it, you can do that. As you see, it'll light up in blue and you can enter any amount because you don't have to pay the full amount back. So if I only wanted to pay $500 of this back, I could pay the other $500 before the end of the year. Our post date will be for today. Our reason is we're going to pay back the general fund If you want to enter in the optional fields here, you could enter in the resolution number. Since I did 111, I'll do 112 this time, and our approval date. As you can see, it already lists the funds, So the system already knows we're going from road and bridge to the general fund, but we still need to select the accounts. There's only one advance out appropriation account for road and bridge. There's only going to be one advance in revenue account for general fund. When you're finished, you can review your work. If you click the close button before posting, you'll get a system message that asks if you want to post the transaction. Click yes to post, no to close the form without posting, and cancel to continue working on the form. I'll click cancel. I'll click the post button. As you can see, we get our confirmation in the lower left-hand corner. It gives you the amount of the advance from road and bridge to the general fund. When you click the close button, it'll ask you if you want to print the advance report. Click yes to print the report, and you could say OK to select the printer, or no to close the form. I'll say no because it's just our screencast option here. Generally, you'd want to print these reports. In conclusion, some things you might want to remember when you're doing an advance. Interfund advances are temporary loans between accounts which are ultimately going to be repaid. If you're not planning to repay a loan, or for some reason a loan cannot be repaid, you need to use the Interfund transfer function. Please see the Interfund transfer screencast for information. Interfund advances should be paid by the end of the year. If they're not, your options are to convert the advance into a transfer by repaying the advance to cancel the temporary loan, and then creating the Interfund transfer to make the cash transfer permanent. To advance cash from one fund to another, there must be a statutory authority to use the money in the fund advancing the cash for the same purpose for which the fund is receiving the cash. While the approval field of the post-Interfund advance form is optional, we strongly suggest that you put the advance authorization information into that field. Repayment of advance not posted in the system is for paying back cash that was advanced but not noted in the system because your entity converted from the old UAN software to the new version of UAN this year. Only use this advance type if you migrated from the old UAN to the new UAN this year and your converted data lost track of an advance. Please be aware of your legal level of control before entering or revising your budget balances. Consult with your governing board if you need to determine your legal level of control. Thank you for using this screencast on the maintenance of Interfund advances in UAN. For information, you may contact the UAN support line at 800-833-8261 or by email at uan_support@auditor.state.oh.us.